And I wanted to be closer to my family. I think that was a big decision-making factor, is I wanted to build a family that I could support successfully. And at that time, the minor leagues were not supporting people from a family perspective. It was, let's pay you the minimum to make you perform at this level. And that's changed over time. And I was actually involved in that change taking place, which was a big accomplishment for me because I'm helping the next generation have a better experience than I had. Hello, everybody. I'm Greg Tomchick. Welcome to the Connected Mindset Podcast, where each week we bring you the stories to better connect with the world around you. Let's dive into this week's podcast. Greg Tomchick, host of the Connected Mindset Live. I am being interviewed by Joe Trahan today and looking forward to diving into this important conversation.
Greg, you ready to dive in?
Ready to dive in. Let's do it, Joe.
Awesome. The first question we love to ask every guest is, what got you to the Virginia area and what kept you to led you to stick around and build your life and business here?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Virginia, a huge supporter. Went away for a couple of years. Both of my parents growing up were military. So that's a common theme I'm sure you hear about Virginia is people come here because of the military and stay for the beach, the proximity to the mountains and all the great people that Virginia Beach and the Hampton Roads region really has. And when I went away for baseball, went and played in all the small cities across America, went to D.C. for a couple of years, went to Dallas, and really realized that my heart was in Virginia and wanted to come back and really build a business that was the foundation of the community, such as cybersecurity.
Awesome. And speaking of baseball, could you love to start off the conversation by having you walk us through the journey of becoming a professional athlete? It's no small feat to do that. And then us average Joes sitting at home watching people on TV go, how the heck do they do that? So what specifically did you have to do to get that process started and actually make it to that league?
Yeah, a lot of behind the scenes work that a lot of people don't see that goes into it. Getting home from school, doing homework, going for a run, doing all the lifts, eating all the right foods. All of that when you're younger, I'd say beginning of high school adds up to get you to a college. I went to Old Dominion University, which was Division I. We had a great run of increasing our exposure to better and better conferences when I was there. And that ultimately led me to, as a 4-year senior, which you want to get drafted before that, but as a 4-year senior, I was offered by the St. Louis Cardinals to come play for them. And it was really a full circle type moment because I knew as a young kid, I either wanted to be president of the United States or a professional athlete and have accomplished one of them. Maybe the other one will come later. But really all the behind the scenes work, the support of my parents was instrumental in getting me there. I had an older brother that was a baseball player, so he always pushed me. And I like to say he made all the mistakes to allow me to eventually succeed and get to that high professional level.
Very cool. Very cool. Especially having a sibling like that to, learn what not to do or to do from is very helpful indeed. What did you have to give up to get there? Because everyone knows, you eat right, you got to start when you're 15 or 16, but we don't really talk about the other side of giving up the things. So what was that for you growing up, not being able to, do certain things? Yeah,
I think you give up a lot of time freedom because you have to be over dedicated. You have to be pretty rigid with your time. Obviously, school, taking care of yourself, things of that nature. Probably you have to give up a lot of that extra time to go ride bikes, ride skateboards. I still did all of that, but not as much as I'd say the average kid. I had to go to bed earlier. I couldn't stay up as late to play video games and things of that nature. So I think you give up a piece of your childhood that I think a lot of us really value. And I look back and I don't regret that, but I know I had to give it up, which is something I see in people I associate with today and are part of my community, that's that time they had, that kind of mental thought freedom they had to explore different avenues, to get different interests and explore curiosities, set them up for success. So I had to do that later on in life after I got out of baseball, going to swim in the pools and going to ride bikes and things. And I think that lit my curiosity up of, wow, this world has so much to offer. Maybe I didn't experience it all as a kid, but it's never too late to be able to experience that and kind of bring the child in you out, no matter what age you are.
Okay, Greg, I have to ask, how fast can you throw a baseball? Is this an appropriate time to ask this question? Because you played as shortstop and pitcher, right?
Third base and pitcher, yeah.
Third base and pitcher.
Yeah.
What was your speed?
So my top speed was 97 miles an hour at my
Good grief.
Yeah.
That is almost triple what I can throw now. Okay. So 97 miles an hour. And that was on average?
That was at the peak. That was
okay.
I was anywhere between 93 and 95 on average.
Okay.
And then 97 was, you're feeling good that day, the weather's right, the crowd's full.
Yeah.
And all of your cells are fully activated to be able to hit that 97 miles an hour.
See, as a fan of baseball and also, hoping to one day, a foul catches, my side of the nosebleed section, I was always like, that must be the greatest feeling. But I just assumed that because I'm, the guy on the other side. But for you, what was the greatest feeling about playing for a team like the St. Louis Cardinals?
No, the thing that comes to my mind is just the fans and the people. When you're able to do something on a stage that's that big and to have fans be so into it and connected to it, and we'll get into the connection piece, but just to see the excitement that it creates with them, the activation, the sense of community that it brings along with it. I think just thinking about the game overall and the fan interaction, that to me was the moment where I had my breakthroughs. Obviously, you have breakthroughs in your skill set and performances, but ultimately you're performing for the fans. And sometimes athletes forget that. But I always tried to really remind myself of that before I'd go out in the field. Like, this is not for me or, a paycheck. This is for that kid in the stands that has a dream that Greg once had as a professional athlete, and being able to give him more hope that it's a possibility. That gave me the shivers to go out there and try to perform at my best and do it with high character, high sportsmanship, because I knew that's what people were going to attach to. If I was the guy throwing my glove and throwing a tantrum, that kid might have remembered that for years to come, and maybe he becomes that person. So I really thought about it from a role model standpoint, and that always set me up for success to really build great relationships with fans and the families that came and supported us.
So as you were working through the stepping stones of identifying what it took to not only play, but also realizing what kind of lit you up inside, it sounds like that piece of, being a good role model and a representation of good character was something pretty important to you, aside from, let's say the fighting for the hockey matches, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah.
What was different about playing for you that you didn't really know until you actually started playing, that you kind of had just assumed, was a certain way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I always thought that talent always won the battle. Ultimately, when you get down to the 7th inning or the 9th inning of a game, it's not the talent, it's the hard work, all the sleepless nights, things of that nature that all lead you to be able to persevere later on in the game. When I saw guys like Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, and you see these idols on TV, you're just like, they're freak athletes and they're so talented that nothing else matters. Like they walk away from the field and nothing they do matters. But as I went through the ranks and really started to play, I realized how important that hard work and that consistency was. And once I realized that, and it clicked for me probably around 12 years old or so, when I started to really talk to the right people, I started to double down on that and say, my talent's only going to be at this level. In order to get to that professional level, I need to work extremely hard and harder than anybody else. That's where the rigidity kind of came from. So.
Yeah, and the focus on the fan experience too. I want to flash forward to a common example we see now, and we can kind of pick on the Cardinals a little bit, depending on your NDA release and things like that, with another competitor of the fan experience, and that's been the Savannah Bananas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talk about fan experience with that. I mean, that's something that I kind of look at as a modern marketing and business and sports example of the pristine pillar of focus on the fan experience. Mm-hmm. What do you think if you were still playing, major league or minor league baseball, what do you think that they could learn from the Savannah Bananas when it comes to the general approach to making sure the fans come first?
Yeah, Jesse over at the Savannah Bananas really he kind of flipped baseball on its head.
Yeah,
because he wanted to be a professional athlete, but he went into the front office and realized that the players were playing for themselves and the team. They weren't playing for the fans. And he said, how can we play for the fans better? And that'll enhance the way we play on the field. So he really flipped the whole business model on its head. I think there's a lot that can be learned and there's a lot that should be avoided when it comes to what they're doing, because it's so extreme from a fan experience where the players are in the stands, things of that nature, which is, a security risk from my perspective. But ultimately what they're doing is saying, what do the fans want? How do we shape the experience around that? And I think we can learn a lot from that from any business standpoint, is not what do you want to do to serve your customer, but what does the customer want that you can do to maximize their experience? And I think the MLB is really raising an eyebrow to what the Savannah Bananas are doing to revolutionize a game that hasn't been changed for hundreds of years. It's been the same game, same pace. Things are changing slower in the MLB. The Savannah Bananas have really shocked the system, but they're packing out, football stadiums of 80,000 people, and MLB games are at an all-time low for attendance. So something has to change, and I love that we're getting to this pinnacle of what can we change to better engage the fans, which are ultimately buying tickets that pay these players to continue to play. So it's challenging a lot of the front office from the MLB side of things. It's challenging them to just be better. And I think we all need that at some points in time when we get in our own way of doing things.
Especially the better piece when it comes to performance, because it's so interesting that you said it's not just about performance. Sammy Sosa was somebody we grew up watching as well, especially over the Astro Stadium. I moved away after they started cheating. So, just let the full disclosure state there. But during that time, it's like, the performance was what made a team good. Like, I know for the Olympics, especially too, they're looking at just that marginal difference of a 1% to 2% difference, because you're already talking about a peak athlete that makes 97 to 98% of the right choices all the time anyway. So that 1% of more of sleep or diet can really set the competitive edge. But it seems like that's the way success has been defined. But when we look at the Savannah Banana model, we're like, kind of left in shock, because it's not necessarily about that anyway. It's about the experience for the fans, at least at a sports level.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody remembers the home run or the play. They remember how it felt in the stadium when that happened. Yeah. And I think that's extremely cool. Somebody makes a diving catch and throws it behind their back and the whole stadium goes wild. I think that's what people feel. They don't remember that event. They remember that feeling that they got when that happened. So it goes back to, us as humans, we're connected to community and the feeling that gives us, versus an event is something we may never really remember, that, home run that Sammy Sosa hit, but we remember how everybody stood up and the crowd went wild.
I always remember when the train would go across and they would shoot up all the fireworks. I distinctly remember growing up and asking my dad, like, when are the fireworks going to be lit? He's like, they have to score a point. And I was like, why is it taking so long for them to score a point? And obviously it's a very tough feat, but ultimately that experience kind of led me to feel, connected or disconnected from the overall team. Mm-hmm. So Greg, why did you leave professional sports?
Yeah, it was kind of my time. I had a feeling that I had hit a wall. I asked leadership, do you see me going forward to the next level at this pace? And there were just people ahead of me, just like in any company, where do you want to be a sitting duck, or do you want to find another path in life to really continue to grow and develop as a person? And I reached that at about 3.5 years, where I was now, even at 23, the older guy on the team. Competing against 18-year-olds that were getting, multiple $1 million. And I felt like it was my time to kind of hang up the cleats per se and pursue my other passion, which was entrepreneurship and building community.
That's so interesting too, because it seemed like since you were, in high school, 15 to 16, that was the trajectory, that becoming a president, right? One day, right? You got to hit the age requirement. But the baseball piece of it too seems like it was very influential. What was that process like of looking at the dream and vision and realizing that it was no longer the dream and vision for your future?
Yeah, I mean, that was my whole identity, was Greg the baseball player. So I was in that box in the community locally. Every time somebody saw me, they were like, oh, that's the baseball player that did X, Y, Z. Yeah. So that's how I was measured. And it was an identity shift, identity shock. But I realized that baseball set me up to be successful in that transition, because you would transition to the teams you're playing. You would transition between different towns and different individuals on your team. So there's a lot of transition that took place. It wasn't an easy transition, but I learned a lot from it that I really try to communicate through the Connected Mindset Live is we're all going to go through transition at one time. How do you prepare yourself for that? And I like to talk about, how baseball prepared me for life after baseball, life after sports. And eventually there will be life after cybersecurity or life after potentially being a president. There's going to be those transitions that keep taking place. And I wanted to be closer to my family. I think that was a big decision-making factor is I wanted to build a family that I could support successfully. And at that time, the minor leagues were not supporting people from a family perspective. It was, let's pay you the minimum to make you perform at this level. And that's changed over time. And I was actually involved in that change taking place, which was a big accomplishment for me because I'm helping the next generation have a better experience than I had.
Yeah. Could we unpack that last piece, especially too with the change? When you say change, so it sounds like there were some systems or some rules in place that prohibited players from being able to see their family on a regular basis. So what was that process like of helping implement that change for the younger players that were coming up?
Yeah, so there was, when I was playing, you were in, Red Roof Inns, you were staying in hotels, and that was impractical if you wanted to have a kid and bring your kid and your wife along or per se, like any other family members. They didn't have the structure to be able to support a family traveling with you in the minor leagues. And the pay was significantly lower than now. It was about a fifth of what it is now.
Oh, wow.
So when you're making, $450 every 2 weeks, that might pay a car payment, but it's not going to pay to put food on the table. I was actually involved in multiple NPR stories. There was a federal legal action that took place. I was involved in bringing awareness to all that and working with the MLB Players Association to try to almost unionize minor league baseball to say, here's what the standard of pay should be. It's like a minimum wage almost. There was no minimum wage in minor league baseball. It was, we're going to set what we believe you should be paid, and we're going to pay you that and expect you to be here 24/7. So there was no justification for the pay, and that's increased over time, which, increased pay allows guys to potentially stay in better hotels. They can feed their family and bring their family along. And that allows you to have the support system you need outside of just the team. You have your family who depends on you for, food and survival. But ultimately, you want that connection back to your family because that's why we do it at the end of the day is either the fans or your family and kind of giving you that ability to do it together. And I think when you're separated from your family, doing something, it makes you feel a little bit isolated. Wow,
Greg, that is so phenomenal. And I appreciate you sharing that as well. I did not know that about you. So you were even at that stage of life, realizing that this time I will have to transition to something else. I mean, physically, you can't always perform at a younger person's stamina or speed, but on your way out, you're like, hey, how do I make it better for these folks? So that's incredible. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. I had no idea. So that's, yeah, thanks. Now, I want to talk about something else, something next. And this subject is, to the general public, can seem a little dry. And that brings us to our next sponsor, Dirt. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Greg, what is cybersecurity and why does it matter?
So cybersecurity is the protection of the connected environment. That's what the word means at the end of the day. We're all connected, whether it's digitally or physically in some way. Cybersecurity is focused traditionally on more of the digital side. I look at cybersecurity as both physical and digital, and it's the protection of that to make sure you don't have any negative harm. We see a lot of cyber attacks, things of that nature. There's a lot of crime going on in the world, and crime is now more online than ever before. And that's what cybersecurity does, helps protect against people getting into your bank account, hacking into your house cameras to watch your family live, listening to you through Amazon Alexas. That privacy piece we all want, which is a fundamental human need. Cybersecurity helps restore and protect that element of our life that we want to maintain our privacy, make sure our family's safe, and make sure our businesses don't get taken advantage of from a financial standpoint, which could ultimately pull the rug out from anything good that's happening in the world.
Yeah, that's some scary stuff from people listening to in your home without your knowledge or consent, and also the ability to access a camera. I know when my wife and I were looking at baby monitors, we saw there was an option for Wi-Fi baby monitor, and after I did some just basic Google searches, I realized I did not want people to be able to access the baby camera with Wi-Fi at all. So we just have a manual, camera that we used. So I understand you wrote a best-selling book called Cybersecurity for Everyday People. What does that entail, and who is this book for?
Yeah, it's just like in the title, the everyday person, the person that is not technical, maybe not even a technology-aware person. I've been able to work for some of the top brands, household brands, companies in the world. And what I realized is that the people outside of the technology department didn't understand the risk from a cybersecurity perspective. And I continued through the media outlets that I went on. I would get calls from random people, people that worked blue collar jobs. And, they would say, I'm hacked, or I've had my bank account taken advantage of. And I wanted to write a book that they could have read beforehand that would have set them up for that not to happen. So it's really just to protect the everyday community person that wants to understand cybersecurity, understand the risks, and the exact actions they need to take to make sure that it doesn't happen to them. And if it does happen, then they know how to minimize the impact of it on the back end.
Wow, that sounds like an incredible resource, and especially too, just how digital our world is now. So I'll throw in a link down in the show notes if anybody wants to check that out, but that seems like an incredible resource. Thank you for sharing that, Greg.
Absolutely.
Last question on the subject of cybersecurity. What role does cybersecurity industry play here in the Virginia state overall? And how do you and your business model work to provide resources and solutions to those businesses here?
Absolutely. Yeah. Virginia is a leading state when it comes to security and cybersecurity. We have a lot of history here, as you've probably discussed on your show, a lot of military bases. We are considered a high threat target when it comes to any warfare that starts. So with that, you have to make sure we're protected both from a physical and a digital standpoint. A lot of the nation's military is within the state of Virginia. I mean, we obviously have D.C., a little bit north, but we have the most density of military in the world within this state of Virginia, which is amazing to say. I think you have a lot of protection that comes along with that.
Yeah.
But we have been a leading state in cybersecurity since the word came about, back in the late 70s, and we've been able to uniquely position ourselves to serve defense contractors, and we have the most defense contractors in the United States and abroad. So we help them protect, national secrets and national security in a way that gets creative and helps the everyday CEO, the everyday executive, protect themselves before they have that bad event happen. And that's ultimately why we exist as a company, and why I love to go to work every day, to be able to talk to those CEOs and understand their story, why they came to Virginia, and ultimately how we can help keep them here and keep them protected at the same time.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Greg. Greg, let's talk about Virginia Beach. You live in Virginia Beach, right?
I do.
How long have you lived in Virginia Beach for?
I've been back in Virginia Beach for the past 4 years, but I grew up here from first grade all the way through senior year. So I was here probably a combined 20 years of my life so far.
So a pretty long time. So you consider yourself pretty much a local at this point, right?
Yeah.
Native,
Local.
yeah. Out of all the years you've lived here, have you ever run out of things to do?
Nope, never. I think with the beach accessible, you can go to different streets of the beach. You can find different types of water and waves, different lakes. I think there's so much here to do that even in my 20 years, I haven't done everything yet.
Wow, really? Oh my gosh. And you're pretty active, pretty fit, and you got the kiddos. So checking out all the parks and the hiking trails and the beach for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the benefits to living in Virginia Beach when it comes to, daily life and recreational activities for the locals outside of what we've already mentioned?
Yeah, I think my mind goes to community and accessibility. I think we're accessible to so many different experiences, whether it's going to Fort Story or going to the aquarium, going to the zoo. There's so much to do that it's sometimes too many options.
Yeah, especially during the summer, right?
Yeah, exactly. I love botanical gardens, things of that nature. I think we just have so many different options of nature, beach, mountains, close enough. You can access, really any type of experience. And I think that's what uniquely sets Virginia up to be the place you want to go if you don't just want that one type of experience, which I think a lot of states, a lot of cities, offer that one thing that makes them who they are. Like if it was just the military bases we had here, it'd probably be pretty boring.
Right.
But over time, I think they've built around experiences to really entertain those military families and people that come along with that. So ultimately, there's always something to do. I love going to the beach. My kids love going to the beach. So if we don't have anything to do or we can't decide, the beach is the number one.
Beach is the way to go. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, for our visitors here, there's actually 10 unique beach experiences in Virginia Beach alone, not to mention our friends north of here. And also, apparently there's a private neighborhood beach out in the Suffolk area. No idea about. I had to sign an NDA to find out about it. But, if you want to do real estate services and give me a call, we can maybe chat about it. So, there's that. Greg, for you, is there a particular festival or an event that stands out to you as the perfect introduction for a newcomer when they're first experiencing Virginia Beach?
I think going to Mount Trashmore for their summer festival is a good one. Mount Trashmore is in the middle where you can kind of get to town center or you can kind of go more toward the ocean front. It's kind of that middle ground. You're going to get a lot of community folks there. I encourage anybody that's visiting to try to go around when you're at these events and ask questions to people that may look like locals. Just say, hey, what would you do if you were visiting here? They're
so friendly. Yeah, they'll
exactly.
tell you.
Yeah. We have that Southern charm, but still have that mix of cultures that I think really sits well with welcoming people that are visiting. We don't push them out or make them feel unwelcome. But asking the people at the stands and things of that nature, hey, we're visiting from X state.
Such a good
What
idea.
would you guys do? Obviously, I know you have guides and people can watch your show to get different ideas. But when you just ask people and connect with folks, that's where you're going to find that, wow, we should do this next. And then you'll look back at your vacation and say, we really didn't have to plan anything. The environment kind of allowed us to go the direction one step at a time. Maybe it's you go to that festival at Mount Trashmore, you go to the ocean front for something, and then maybe they send you to Chick's Beach to get some seafood or lobster rolls. And then, the next day you have kind of a agenda that the community has helped you shape versus having a step-by-step anticipation of just what the typical tourist would do. So I would definitely say start at Mount Trashmore and see where it takes you from there.
Great first introduction. Thank you for sharing that, Greg. Favorite neighborhood in Virginia Beach?
I grew up in the Witch Duck area near Thorogood.
Okay,
So I love that area. I love all the things that are going on in the town center area. I was able to do an internship when I was at Princeton High School with Mr. Hoffler, with Armada Hoffler, who was in one building. And he had this vision of building up this kind of town center area. And he was looking through the buildings. He's like, eventually this is all going to be built up. It's going to be a big community. So just to be able to see the neighborhoods that are building up around there, I think is really incredible. But I love the Witch Duck Thorogood area. I think it's very quiet. It's very family oriented, but really accessible to both the bay, the ocean front, and town center.
Absolutely. That's so cool. So you interned with Mr. Hoffler himself.
Absolutely.
Okay. Every time I see his building, I got to slap his little crescent on the wall there.
Yeah.
If someone was looking to move to Virginia Beach, Greg, what's one piece of knowledge or advice you want them to have before moving here?
I think the concentration of military, I think it's important to understand that you may come across people who are more, serious because they come from that military thing. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means they may not have the same demeanor that you're used to from where you're coming from. I think that's one thing is just, accept people for who they are. I think that's an important quality to move here. And make sure you don't mind sand in between your toes. I think that's one I hear often, even locals. Some people still don't like sand, and that's perfectly fine. But if you love sand, you're going to love this place even more because it has a lot of sand to offer.
Yeah. I hate the sand. It's so coarse in my hands.
Yeah, right.
Yes. All righty. Greg, this next segment, we're going to be talking about the Connected Mindset podcast. So you've talked a lot about connection and connected mindset, and I understand you have a pretty large following on your YouTube specifically with the Connected Mindset Live podcast. Would you mind sharing a little bit about how that process came about of deciding, hey, now that I'm transitioning out of my career with the baseball team, I want to, have, a video podcast?
Yeah. When I was transitioning, as I mentioned, it was a big shock to my identity, and I felt isolated and really disconnected from the world. Initially, I tried to connect through online means, trying to find people on Facebook or LinkedIn, and it felt very artificial to me. So I thought, how could I create a channel that helps me be more connected, helps me learn how to better connect with myself and others through people telling their stories about how they connected through transitions. And I think about connection, two ways. It's that connection you feel, those breakthroughs when you're having a conversation with somebody, but also when you're going through something in life and somebody hits the nail right on the head and says the exact thing you need to hear at that moment. That feeling, to me, is the connected mindset. It's how do we give those stories to somebody that may need them and connect with them at the exact time they need it. And I think a lot of podcasts are on that mission, but I really wanted anybody that tuned into my channel or into the show to walk away with a breakthrough and something that solves a problem in their life that they're currently going through. And the amazing thing about that is the guests I've had on the show typically walk away from the show and say, wow, I didn't really understand what the connected mindset was, but now I feel more connected to myself and others just through this conversation. So it's really what I call a triple win. It's a win, win for me to be able to experience that person's story. It's a win for the audience, and it's a win for the guests to be able to share their story and connect with people that may want to learn more about them.
Absolutely. And especially to just our innate ability or desire rather to connect, and our ability to do that has somewhat been hindered with technology. But fortunately for shows like yours, the Connected Mindset, and definitely encourage people to go check it out. It's just another opportunity to connect with people who are going through either transitions in life or business, or just trying to navigate the woes of life, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Greg, who would you say in recent memory has been a conversation on your show or person or conversation that really sticks out of your mind as something that you have been going through recently and, like you said, hit the nail on the head for you?
Yeah, we recently had Adam Cruz on, who was a former pastor. So he used to build churches, went and worked in Silicon Valley, so the technology world. And he realized as he was doing that he was going through rapid burnout, and he realized that it was impacting his family, it was impacting all of his relationships, and he wasn't connected to himself because he was outsourcing his happiness. And I think a lot of times we do that, and if we're an extrovert, we outsource our happiness to what the world's giving us back. So definitely check out that episode with Adam Cruz. It was an amazing conversation on how do you have sustainability but still find your own version of success. And I think we oftentimes sacrifice the sustainability, that longevity, the ability to live till 70, 80, 90, because we want success in our 20s, 30s, and 40s. And oftentimes what we found and what Adam has studied on and his framework is based off of is, 9 out of 10 people in their 50s say, I wish I would have done it differently in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. So how do we stop repeating the same thing over and over again and get people to their 50s and get those 20-year-olds now when they're 50 to say, I focused on sustainability, which led me to success, and I don't regret anything about how I went about it. And I think it takes that conscious awareness and being able to see that, learn from the past to be able to inform the present. And his episode was amazing. But we've had, over 50 episodes. We've had a lot of guests on multiple times. We've been able to have conversations on the nervous system and mental health, just all different types of topics that we feel are critical for the everyday person to understand and to connect with at the right time for them.
Little bit of a meta question for you here, not to be confused with Meta Facebook, but Meta for the podcast industry. What do you think is the most important trait or most important responsibility that a host like yourself has to undertake in order to be able to, correctly and accurately describe an individual story? Because it's so personal, right? And if someone's not going through that exact season of life, it's kind of your job as the host story to make sure it either fits or it provides some sort of understanding, or at least, general connectedness that you're looking for.
Yeah, I think ultimately I always say to my guests, questions are the best answers. So I think as a host, it's asking questions that person's story is bringing out of you. I really try to feel what my guest is talking about, their background. I love to allow them to tell their story and then digest it and feel what that's feeling for me, and to ask the question I feel like the guest needs. I love that ability for storytelling. I think we can tell our story best, but when we have a reflection of that story and a host can feel what that next logical question the audience is asking, I think that's ultimately the host's role. And what I feel my role is on the show is to just think of what the audience is probably questioning and really allow that person to expand upon their story through those questions.
That's so interesting. Yeah, because as a listener of podcasts too, that's kind of like what I'm like thinking through is like, what questions would I ask somebody? Like, how fast can Greg actually throw a baseball? Like, should I ask him to throw it to me as fast as he can? Would that be good content, or should I just ask him? Right. So those are the things that are responsibilities for a host. Now, I understand you're part of another group through the Connected Mindset Live with the Brand Builders group over in Tennessee with Rory and AJ Veda. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. How did you get connected with them originally, and what has that journey been like for you in continuing to build out your own brand and business?
Yeah, it's been absolutely huge. Great team over there. I actually connected with them through somebody that I played minor league baseball with, and he saw that I was always focused on that character element, how do I make sure my brand reflects positively both on the team, but reflects positively to the fans. And I think that's branding at the end of the day, is how do we put out our story and our brand in a way that attracts the people that either need us or that are similar to us in the way that we think. And he brought me in, he said, this group would be perfect for you. He was their first kind of sales hire very early on in their company. They've rapidly expanded and grown over the past 2-3 years. But ultimately, they are the fathers and mothers of branding. They have some of the biggest, Lewis Howes, Ed Milet, some of the biggest people that you see on social media and abroad. They have helped them build their brand. And ultimately, it's really rapidly allowed me to avoid the common pitfalls of branding. Been able to go to Nashville and spend time with them, and it's helped me clarify the impact I want to have on the world, which was always something from a young age. I used to ask profound questions to my, older people in my family, and I was always had that curiosity. But ultimately, I needed a framework, and they provide what I look at as the best framework in the industry when it comes to building someone's personal brand, which is what we all are today. We're a social media profile and a personal brand that hopefully desires to positively impact people. And they help people do it in a very expedited time frame. Yeah,
it's so fascinating the way in which Rory and AJ set up their business to help brands build. And it's great to have a testimonial like yours. And I also understand they have a new book coming out as well. Yes, how do folks get more information about that? Because I understand you guys might have something in the works possibly in the future. So definitely want to maybe mention that as well if we can on camera.
Absolutely. So they have put together their 20 plus years of combined experience in branding the top people in social media and put it into a book that basically gives you their blueprint. And if you need their help, you can always go to them. But just like any author, they have put in the step-by-step process to build your personal brand from scratch. And we're going to put a link in the show notes to the ability to download that book free of charge.
That's awesome.
And if you go about doing that, I know they would love it. I think it would really impact you. They have ways you can do it in audio and in physical copy, so based off of your preference. And ultimately, it's mastering your personal brand. So you are the unique version of you. They always say that no brand is like yours. And I think oftentimes with social media, we we generalize and we think that our brand is like Lewis Howes. And you have to have those people to follow, but you got to shape it off of the things you've gone through in life that uniquely qualify you to serve your audience. And that's what their book talks all about, is how do you get out those unique qualifiers? For me, it was, that those tough struggles through baseball, the transitions, those are all things that other people have gone through, but not the same way Greg has. And I think, the military family. So all of those elements are what they help me tease out, that their book exactly does that, to be able to help me form Greg Tomchick as a brand, the connected mindset, and ultimately what I put out in the world each and every day.
Wow, that's incredible, especially when communities of like-minded people who want to give back and share their stories connect. I mean, that sounds like such an amazing resource. I got to go download this book. Greg, we have one more segment here. We'd love to roll out the red carpet and give you a final say for our listeners of where they can go to learn more about all the wonderful things you have going on. But before you get there, you have to play a little game here, because apparently vertical video is where it's at. So we have to strategically make a video about, a game of entertainment. So this game is called This or That. So I'll give you two options of a Major League Baseball team, and you can stay with the team you picked, or you can switch over to that other team. And just for some context, for the fun of the game, if you could play for any of these teams, this would be the team you'd want to play with today. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. We got Baltimore Orioles or Atlanta Braves?
Atlanta Braves.
Atlanta Braves or Boston Red Sox?
Boston Red Sox. I was born there.
Very cool. Boston Red Sox or Miami Marlins?
Boston Red Sox.
Boston Red Sox or New York Yankees?
Boston Red Sox.
Boston Red Sox or New York Mets?
Boston Red Sox.
All righty. And last one, Boston Red Sox or Savannah Bananas?
Boston Red Sox.
Boston Red Sox it is. They're the winner. Yeah. Awesome. Greg, there's nothing left to do but to roll out the red carpet. This camera here, let the audience know where they can go to learn more about you and where they can get connected with you.
Yeah, check me out on gregtomchick.com. Pretty straightforward. All over LinkedIn. That's our main platform. I do have an Instagram where I post a lot about the show. Definitely check out my YouTube channel, Greg Tomchick. We'd love to see you on the Connected Mindset Live. We have live digital versions, but also episodes that roll out each week. Would love to connect with you. And ultimately, connecting with me is going to help you better connect with the world around you. That's why I exist, and looking forward to staying connected with you and Joe and the team. I love what you guys are up to.
Awesome. Greg, thanks for your time.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. If you're feeling more connected from this episode, please like, subscribe, and share with someone that you care about. And I'll see you on the next episode of the Connected Mindset Podcast.